As some of you may have noticed in my recent video, my EMG Helios M4A1 both sounds and looks slightly different in terms of the lower receiver. This is due to a rather unfortunate and honestly quite surprising problem that I seem to have ran into for the first time. In my past 18 months of playing Airsoft, I've used a good amount of various Airsoft M4s ranging from company to company. G&G, ASL, and EMG are just a couple of brands that I've had the pleasure and displeasure of using. Airsoft guns seem to always have problems, and that just seems to come with the sport. However, I've never run into a problem quite like this. Now, before I get started, this video is not to complain about EVIC, EMG, or the gun specifically. This video is simply listing the positives and negatives I've experienced whilst fielding this specific gun. In mid-July of last summer, I picked up the EMG Helios Cyma Platinum Daniel Defense M4A1 from evic.com. This gun was around $300 and had gotten some pretty decent reviews for the relatively short time it had been on the shelves. While personally never having the chance to use an EMG or Cyma gun, I had heard some pretty good things regarding the two companies, so I was pretty eager to try this gun out. Not to mention the other option of purchasing the VFC Avalon Mark 18 was completely out of the picture considering its low availability and a high price tag. This gun is offered with a TM version 2 gearbox, quick change spring, 400 FPS with 0.20 gram BBs, 28 RPS with an 11.1 volt LiPo, pre-wired to Dean's, and comes with an integrated MOSFET. Reading this description, you'd think this is a relatively high quality gun and is a great purchase for the lower range price tag. To that, I'd say you're correct. In a way. Upon receiving this gun, I got everything I was offered. The gun functioned, fed BBs well, and did everything a typical airsoft gun would do. However, when I fielded the gun, this is where I ran into some issues. These issues weren't a major deal, but seemed to be misleading in certain ways. The first issue I seemed to run into was the FPS. I purchased the 400 FPS M4A1 model, however, even when testing them with the 0.20 gram BBs, the gun was falling short of 400 FPS by about 50. Now, you'd think that this isn't a big of a deal, as 350 to 370 FPS is still a good range. However, if you pay a large amount of money, you definitely want to get what you pay for. When seeing this FPS drop, I sucked it up and moved on, as most of my engagements are close range while rushing enemies, as I am a relatively aggressive player. However, even as aggressive as I am, this next issue also seemed to be a major letdown. The field I visit in particular, the majority of the gunfights seem to happen at medium to long distance. Most of the time you're shooting your enemy across the field past multiple obstacles. For this, you definitely want a decent hop-up unit that can give your BBs a decent backspin. However, that didn't seem to be the case with my M4A1 by EMG. Even dropping my BB weight down to 0.28 grams, the M4A1 seemed to struggle to hop BBs past 100 feet. The BBs would seem to just drop shy of 100. Now, with all this information, you'd think that this gun was just a lemon. Why wouldn't I just return it for a new one? You see, I'm not the only one having this issue. You can read on eVike that multiple people, also fellow airsoft creators, have had the same issue with their FPS and hop-up units. You could also say that why not just replace the hop-up unit? To that, I would answer, why should I have to buy a hop-up unit for a gun that can't even complete its basic purpose? Sure, stock guns aren't amazing, but I've never seen a gun struggle to get good range even while it's max hopped. With this amount of issues, you'd think that I couldn't possibly have any more issues. Unfortunately, that's not the case. After around a month of fielding this gun, I seemed to notice the trigger get a little bit finicky. Now, I'm known to feather my trigger a lot, and I mean a lot. Most of the time, I've got my middle finger spraying rounds down range, suppressing little Jimmy just trying to have his birthday party. This next issue could possibly just be user error combined with a stock part. However, this is something I've never seen before, not even on a beginner gun like a combat machine or an ASL. When on semi-auto, the trigger would seem to switch into full auto for 2 or 3 shots, then go back to semi. I was curious to this issue, but I never took the time to address it. Well, looking back now, it looks like I should have. On one fateful day, it finally gave out. During an attack and defend game, I was sitting up on our second story tower, suppressing enemies pushing our position. I ducked down and put my weapon on safety so I could reload. However, the gun didn't want to be safe. By that, I mean the gun kept firing while on safety and my finger was well off the trigger. I didn't notice it at first, but continued my reload. My friend Anthony from Strike Entertainment came up to me and asked why I was still shooting while reloading. I was confused, then felt my motor grip getting really hot. I quickly fumbled to get the stock plate off to remove the battery. Once I did, I sat there baffled and confused as to what was happening. I plugged the battery back in to double check, and as soon as I did, the gun continued to dry fire. Keep in mind, the weapon was still on safety with my hand now fully removed from the hand grip. I immediately took down to the shop tech to determine what the issue was. Upon inspection, he was slightly confused as to what was going on, but came to the conclusion that the trigger plate was stripped. Never in my 18 years and multiple M4s have I ever stripped a trigger plate. For a gun I spent a solid amount of money on and what they're offering, you'd expect this issue not to happen. Now, you may still be wondering, okay Rice, but you still used it in your recent video, didn't you? So isn't it working? Yes, you're correct. However, I had to switch my lower receiver on an old gun and put the Mark 18 upper on it. I still have yet to get this gun repaired and consult Evic on what happened. My personal advice, stay away from this gun. It gives more issues than what you pay for, and quite honestly, the extra month or two waiting for the VFC Avalon version might just be worth it. Hopefully I can move on from this issue soon and keep on having an amazing time playing Airsoft. This has been Callsign Rice, and I'll see you on the field.